Hey, hello and welcome to today's GFG problem of the day. Hope you all are doing well. So let's see today's problem. So we will be given a connected undirected graph with n nodes and m edges. What we want to do is we want to, and each node in the graph contains an integer val and an array of neighbors. Okay. So integer val and array of neighbors will be given. Okay. So what we want to do is we want to clone that graph. Okay. We want to clone that graph. If the user returns a correct copy of the graph, then the system will print one. In the case incorrect copy is generated or user returns the original node, the system will print zero. Okay. So today's problem, right? Today's problem is like what we are going to do is we are going to do for example, let's see the example, right? So let's say this is the example graph given. Okay. So this is an undirected graph, connected graph. Okay. Undirected graph and connected graph. And what we want to do is we want to return the clone of this graph. Okay. Return the clone of this graph. So basically the intuition behind this will be to do the BFS traversal of this graph and then do the clone along with that, right? Along with the BFS traversal and then return the clone to source node. Okay. So as it is a BFS traversal, right? So I've also kept the code of Java and C++ here, right? So that I'll explain together. Okay. So let's say so we'll be given this graph, for example, and this is the source node. Okay, this is a source node, right? So what it will be, A, B, C, list of neighbors will have, right? A, B, C, right? Who are the neighbors of A, B, and C, right? The neighbors of B are A and D, right? Neighbors of C are A and D again, and D are, sorry, B and C, right? So this is a graph, right? This is a graph. So what we're going to do is we'll have a queue. Okay, we'll have, as you know, the iterative BFS, right? We use queue. So we'll have a queue. Okay, and the source node will add the source node first in the queue, and we'll also have a hash map. Okay, hash map which will have key as a node, as an original node, right? We'll add, and in the value we'll add a cloned node of A. Okay, whatever is a node we'll add clone node. So here if you see on the left hand side is the Java code, right? So here we are having a queue, right? Queue, and we are adding the source node queue in the queue. Okay, we are also having hash map, right? Okay, so the key will be the original node, right? The source node, and the value will be the cloned. See, if you see, we have the cloned node here. Okay, so what we're going to do, we are going to iterate through the queue in the while loop, right? So now what we're going to have is we are going to remove this from the queue. So on the right hand side also there is this C++ code. Okay, there's the C++ code. So here we are having queue, we are pushing the node into the queue, and we are having unordered map, right? So in the unordered map, we are, as I told, we are adding the original node as a key and the clone node as a value. Okay, and then we are iterating through the queue. Okay, so what we did, we removed this, right? We removed this from the queue. So here we have, right? We remove this from the queue. So here we have A, right? We remove from the queue. And what we are doing is from this hash map, right? From this hash map, we are doing lookup of A, and we are having cloned, we are getting cloned A, right? Cloned A. Okay, we are doing lookup of A, right? And we get this cloned A, right? We got this cloned A. And now what we're going to do we are going to iterate. We are going to iterate through the neighbors, right? Through the neighbors of A, of the original node A. Okay. So which are the original, the neighbors? So the neighbors of A are B, right? B. So we'll first check whether B is present in hash map or not, right? B is not present. So we are going to add B and clone of B, right? We're going to add B and clone of B, right? Then we'll also add in the queue, right? We'll also add in the queue B, right? And then what we are going to do is we are going to also add into the neighbor of clone A, right? Clone A, right? Because we want to clone, right? So what we're going to do is we are going to uh yeah. So we are going to create this whatever we created, right? Clone B, right? So we are going to add into the neighbor of clone B, right? We are going to add in the neighbor of clone B, yeah, as a neighbor of clone A, clone B, right? Whatever object we created, right? So similarly, then we'll iterate C, we'll iterate to the C. We'll check whether it is present in hash map or not. No, it is not present. We'll add the original node C, and we'll create a clone C, right? A clone C, right? And we'll add in the hash map as a value. Okay. And then we are also going to add this C in this queue, right? And along with that, we are going to add this clone C in the as a neighbor of clone A, as a neighbor of clone A, right? So this is done. We have iterated all the neighbors of A, right? Now we'll check whether Q is empty or not. So we'll remove B from the queue. So we'll have B over here, right? Okay, we'll have B over here. So now we are going to check, right? And we'll also have what? We'll get we'll do lookup of original node B, and we'll get clone B accordingly, right? Clone B. Now we are going to check, right? We are going to check whether this we are going to iterate to the neighbors of B. Okay, iterate to the neighbors of B. Okay, so here, so here we are going to check for A, right? For A. So A, whether it is part of this hash map or not. Yes, it is part of A. So we are simply what we're going to do? We are going to get the cloned A. We are going to do lookup of A and get the cloned A, and we are going to add into the neighbor of cloned B, right? Cloned A. Okay. Then will iterate through this D. We'll check whether D is present in hash map or not, right? So it is not present, so we are going to add D, and we are going to create a clone of D, right? A new object of D, and we're going to add in the as a value, okay, as a value, and we'll also add in the Q, right? We'll also add in the Q, and then we will what we're going to do in the clone B, as we are going to add clone D in the as a neighbor of clone B, as a neighbor of clone B. So similarly, we are going to follow the steps. We are going to once we have iterated through, we have processed the neighbors of B. We are going to iterate through the queue. We are going to remove the C from the queue, and then we are going to check whether A will process uh, the neighbors of C, right? A D. We'll check A. Okay, it is present. So for what we are going to do in clone C, right? In clone C, we are going to add clone A, right? We're going to add clone A and clone D, right? So similarly, yes, once done, we'll process D as well and follow the same process. Okay. So let's see the code. Let's see the code on the left hand side. On the left hand side, right? Uh, uh, it is a Java code here, right? On the left hand side. So as I told, right? So we have this hash map and queue, right? We added the source node, right? The original node in the map, right? And the clone node. So we are iterating through the queue. We are removing the element, okay, and we are doing lookup in the hash map, and we are getting the clone source node, right? And then we are checking if the neighbors of original node, if they are not null, right, then let's iterate to the neighbors. Okay, let's iterate to the neighbors. We are doing lookup of that neighbor, right? In this okay, we're in the hash map. In the hash map, if it is not present, then we are going to add that node in the original neighbor node into the queue, right? And we are going to create a cloned a node, right? Neighbor node, clone neighbor node, and we are going to add in the hash map, right? This graph node, and then what we are doing, the source node, right? The source node. Where is clone node U? Clone node U is here. We are adding to the neighbor this neighbor node, the clone neighbor node, right? We are adding the clone neighbor node into the source node. Okay, so in this way, and then finally, what we are doing, we are returning the clone source node, basically the clone source node, whatever input source node we have got, right? So we are returning the clone source node, which will have all the clone neighbors and all. Okay, so similarly, we have on the right hand side, the C++ code. We are adding in the queue. We are having hash map. Then, as I told, right, we'll popping out the source node, right? And then we are going to look up for the source node, and we'll get clone node, right? Clone node. And then we're going to process the neighbors, right? Of this original node from the queue, right? And then what we are doing, we are checking, we are looking up for the clone neighbor node, right? If it is not there, we are adding the queue, then we are creating clone node and adding the hash map. And then ultimately what we're doing, once it is created, this clone node is created, we are adding the clone neighbor node into the this original source node, okay, into the node. Okay, and finally we are returning the cloned source node. Okay, so yes, I hope this is the solution. I hope you have got. I'll quickly now this is C++ code. Let me quickly execute the code. Yes, it is accepted. I hope you've got the solution. Thanks for watching. Have a happy, healthy, and a great day. And also, please subscribe to my channel, like the video. Thank you so much.